As promised, here is your video number 2 for today regarding our persuasive speech. As many times as I've taught this course, this is sometimes where students will have a hiccup in regards to preparing for their speech. And it's because we're often taught when giving the speech, we want to acknowledge both sides of the story or the issue. But for a persuasive speech, it's very important that we pick a topic and then pick which side of the topic or issue we are on versus trying to tackle all of them. It can be quite overwhelming to try to argue each point back and forth. So, for example, past topics have been gun control. Are you for or against the BCS football designation? Are you for it or against it? And it really helps if you pick a topic that has lots of research out there, things that people are really talking about and are interested in learning more about. Because the more research done, the more statistics there are to support whatever side of the issue you're taking. So make sure you choose a topic that has lots of research, is interesting to you, and is something that is one side or the other of an issue. So that way you can be the most persuasive as you possibly can be. So I'm also going to take a second to look at some presentations that we have put together in the past over this issue. And if you'll notice here, we have key terms in persuasion and persuasive speeches that we have used in the past. For example, the nature of persuasion is to make an argument to either someone as a person, logically, someone's emotion, which is pathos, or someone's to their brain, which is logos. And so in this situation, you want to think about what kind of appeal you're going to make to be persuasive. Are you going to appeal to them logically and rationally through statistical data? Are you going to appeal to their emotion or to fear? Are you going to appeal to some type of stimulation to their activity of the brain? This makes sense, make them feel like they need to be a part of that. A lot of times it helps if you have a claim, some kind of claim that you're making. For example, a claim on the PowerPoint here is, my client is innocent of murder. The support of that claim is that my client was out of town when the murder took place. And so it logically warrants the discussion of, one must be physically present in order to commit a murder. So that actually is the basis of what you're trying to argue. Some other claim support warrant examples are, most Americans need to exercise more. The support of that is, according to the latest government figures, Americans are overweight. Does that warrant? Exercise can help you lose weight. The last example I'll use here is that the claim is that you should buy our tooth whitening product. Support shows that studies have said that teeth are 50% whiter after using their product over a specific amount of time. So what does that warrant? That people want whiter teeth. So what is it that you're trying to do? What is your claim? What research can you find to support that? And then what does that warrant? What kind of thesis does that create, or that kind of statement? When you're arguing to someone's logos, you want to talk about some of these things. There's some great examples in your book. If you want to go back and look at your reading, you want to do a false call. Sometimes you're leading them down an either or claim. You can either do this or you can do that. A lot of times these are very difficult when making an argument. The other thing that you can do is you can argue to someone's ethos. You can say, trust me, I have great character. I'm an expert in this. What is it that you're an expert in? For me, I work in aviation on a daily basis. And so for me, it is about air travel, and it is where to sit on an airplane to do whatever you need to do in regards to get the best Wi-Fi, or to feel like you're the safest psychologically. So those are things that I can be an expert in. So what gives me good character? What gives me goodwill? What makes me credible and competent? What makes me an expert on the field? These are something that you're already a good expert on, so that you can appeal to that. And then also you can think about it arguing from a pathos perspective. You want to evoke their emotion. How do you do that? You do that for fear. You do it through guilt. You do it through shame. You do it through anger. Some of those are the negative things, but they can be used effectively if you're talking about, trying to get someone to stop smoking, or trying to get someone to go out and get screening for a certain health issue if they already have a underlying heart condition. So sometimes negative emotion could be to your advantage because you don't want to lose someone, or you know that they're doing something that is unhealthy, and using that guilt, shame, or fear to get them to do something that is better for them. You also might want to evoke a positive emotion like happiness or pride or relief or hope or a compassion. A lot of these things are established through trying to make someone feel good about buying your product, or you'll feel happier if you have this, or if you take my stand or my side of the issue, then you're going to feel much better about this in the long run. You see these a lot of times in commercials where they try to discuss around the flag. America comes together around the flag, or parents. Mother's Day. We just celebrated Mother's Day, so things that you saw were commercials where you felt happy and pride and hope and compassion, while you're buying the card from Hallmark. So those are some things that you might want to look at when you are thinking about who you're trying to evoke. What kind of emotion, what kind of argument are you making? A rational one, an emotional one, something that is logical, appeals to their rationality. So when you're preparing your persuasive speech, you're going to want to assess your audience's attitude too. Is the topic that you're picking something that's going to go across to your audience in a negative way? Do you present to your audience in a way that is comfortable for them? Do you have different categories of audiences? Are they opposed to your issue? Do they not care one way or another? Or are they in favor? Presenting to different kinds of audiences in those categories actually should influence your type of speech. For example, if you were presenting something on gun control to people who were opposed to what you were saying, you need to be prepared with stats and something to try to convince them that you are on the right side of that, because they're already naturally opposed to what you're saying. If you're presenting that same issue to people who have no opinion, you're going to want to educate them on the issue so that they can be better informed to make that decision. But if you're already talking to someone who's in favor of what you're saying, you're going to want to be a motivator, and you're going to want to have a different approach to it altogether. So developing your approach or your proposition to your topic is just as important as determining how to present it to the audience that you're presenting it to. So you have to know your audience. Know ahead of time what's going to happen. Who are you presenting to, and how are they going to receive that information? Also, when you're doing a persuasive speech, you're going to think about the different organizational frameworks of putting that together. Are you going to compare the advantages to something? Sometimes it helps to compare the pros and cons of an issue by acknowledging that other sides of the issue exist when you feel like yours are more strongly in line with the right side of the issue. You may also want to think about statements of reason. You may talk about how there's a problem and you're going to help solve it. There's a problem which is caused by something that you're going to help to solve. All those things are fully described. Organizational frameworks are described in your reading. So make sure that you do tackle that reading this week. It'll be very helpful with you when you're trying to devise this. And then finally, ethics of persuasive speaking. It's very easy to be dishonest and to try to argue your point. I know many of us have been in arguments where we felt like we were very much the one in the right and want to convince someone, and we might do anything to get them to change their mind, especially in a situation where a loved one's smoking or doing something that might be harmful to their health, and we want to use everything in our power to get them to change that attitude or behavior. We as communicators must be ethical at all times, only presenting facts, not being misleading or speculative in what we're doing. In a persuasive speech, you need to rely specifically on the information that you've been able to research and make a good, clear argument as to why you are right on the topic, and then leave it up to your audience to determine whether or not their opinion or behavior has been changed. The best way to do that is to remember, one, be organized. Make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row before you start to record your speech or present your speech. 2, consider the audiences who you're going to present them to. How are you going to frame that work and be able to communicate to that group? Are they opposed to your situation? Are they neutral, or are they supportive? Again, it depends on how they feel about your issue as to the way that you need to present the information. And then you also want to be very well aware of the person's time. So when you're talking about something dragging on and on and on, it starts to lose its effectiveness towards the end of the speech. So making sure you get your points at the very beginning and driving home a very clear message, and then summarizing at the end why you have been very successful in defending your side of the issue are critical. If you get into the process of doing the speech and you need additional help, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.